I have been a staff network news cameraman for NBC. I've traveled all over the world. I've seen some amazing things and worked with incredibly hardworking and professional correspondents, producers, soundmen, editors, great people. The business is changing. The business is changing. People like me who are simply camera folk, we're commodities now. So on the one hand, I have to become more than that. But more importantly, there's tremendous opportunity for someone with a storytelling skill set and a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit and the ability to define markets and create relevant, meaningful experiences, community content around core groups of people. I think we'll be able to make pretty cool plays in this new ecosystem.
This is webvideochefs.com, Amani Channel here, and I'm joined with a special guy. You saw that little soundbite at the beginning of the clip. Joined by Jim Long right now, who we've known since about 2007. Jim, met you at the Vaughn Conference way back when. Jim is a cameraman with NBC Network. So thanks so much for being with us, Jim.
Well, I had so much fun meeting you at that conference, and I hope if you're going to edit this video that you use the picture of us that's up there on Flickr. That was a great conference, and it was neat meeting you because you and we're like twins. You're the Atlanta guy, I'm the DC guy, but we came down sort of that same path, didn't we? I mean, we come from traditional media, but we very early on understood the power and impact of social media.
Yeah, exactly. And even at that conference, I think was when I first learned of Twitter way back when. So we've seen it sort of grow into this entity now that is sort of mainstream. And I think that in terms of, for me personally, starting in social media back in about 2006, I kind of felt like, would my professional news colleagues understand what I was doing? Would they respect me for blogging, for all this new stuff? And now we've seen sort of the mainstream follow along as well. So how has your experience been in terms of getting in on social media? Why did you become an early adopter? What did you see when you first learned about, the Twitters, the blogging and all that?
Well, I don't know if your experience was anything like mine, but I felt like I was, back in 2006, 2007, I was sort of the crazy uncle running around my workplace talking about Twitter. Oh my God, you got to get on Twitter. And they all kind of just nodded and smiled and kind of put up with me. But it was an unusual journey of discovery for me. And it's kind of a longish story, but it's the internet and we got time and you can edit. I really stumbled onto this stuff. And in doing so, I discovered that, it had a lot of power and a lot of impact, and it was going to be something that had an impact on our industry. So, and the tale of how I came to this, I was in San Diego just before Katrina hit with President Bush. And we got news that Katrina was really pounding New Orleans. And I was in the travel pool with the president that day. And we went from this event at the Navy Yard there to board the motorcades and get back to Texas, where the president had been vacationing. And he was going to, finish up there and get back to Washington and monitor the hurricane. As our motorcade is driving back to Air Force One, because the hurricane had impacted the refineries, they were changing the dollar amounts on the gas station signs. At this point, I owned a Chevy Suburban, which had a 4-gallon gas tank, and it occurred to me that I might want to get something a little more economical. So I buy this Honda Element that had, as I discovered, an iPod input. And I'd been iPod resistant to that time. But here, I buy this new car that has an input for it. I've got a great excuse to buy a new gadget, right? So I buy this thing, and now I got to figure out what I'm going to put on the iPod, right? So I'm kind of Googling around. I'm looking for free stuff because I don't want to get married to iTunes just yet. That's more like getting married rather than dating, if you know what I mean. So I'm looking for like free stuff, and I come across this website for the Portable Media Expo, which is now the blogging New Media Expo. Um, and I'm looking at all these conference sessions of all these people talking about creating their own content, podcasts, video podcasts, blogging. And I'm thinking, wow, look at these. This is amazing. I mean, I had heard of blogging. I'd ignored it like most people in traditional media had been. And I'm looking at these people, and they're making money from advertising. These are independent producers creating their own content, creating their own networks, whether it be audio or I'm thinking guys like Leah Laporte, CC Chapman, all these guys, and I was amazed and I was energized by this. Now, so as I did a little more research into this stuff, and I start reading uh, advertising industry trade publications, I start reading about how this stuff is impacting the ad revenue pie. The ad revenue pie is only so big, and now it's getting divided up, and people's attention is getting divided up as well. So it was a very crystal clear moment to me that things were changing, and that people like you and I had to understand and be part of emerging media in order to survive.
And thus, at New Media, Jim was born, I would take it.
I went to a Portable Media Expo the following year, and it was out in California. And I met Chris Brogan out there, and just what a terrific guy he was, just super friendly, super engaging, super encouraging.
I know. I think the thing about Chris is I think he remembers the name of everyone he meets face to face, which I
Oh yeah,
can't say that
absolutely,
I do all the time,
absolutely.
especially coming from the news business. You meet new people every day.
Like,
It's like,
I have Newsheimer's.
me too. So you got on Twitter. You've grown your following tremendously. Your blog is also very well followed. What do you attribute that to, Jim?
I honestly think I'll attribute my Twitter following to a couple of things. I think Chris was the guy who told me about Twitter, and when he told me what it was, I thought, boy, that sounds really dumb. I mean, wasn't that your first initial
I didn't
reaction?
get it at first. I think you mentioned it to
Yeah,
me. Then I got back to Atlanta and another David Eckhoff. I met David Eckhoff at
right,
and
right,
he mentioned
right.
it too. He's like, yeah, you need to get on Twitter. And so it's kind of like, you hear things a couple of times, and I jumped on it. But, I was freelancing for HD News still. I was still doing a little bit of traditional stuff. And that's when, using the hashtags, I was covering a lot of the storms. And people would follow me
Right,
by the dozens when I used that hashtag. So that's really when I sort of was like, aha. That was my aha moment
right.
for it.
Well, I think you and I, again, the parallel life thing, I think you and I have interesting things to tweet about because of who we work for, right? I mean, NBC News sends me to amazing places to cover amazing things. And in sort of this, what was originally kind of a technology echo chamber, the early adopters were Silicon Valley people, venture capital people, bloggers, that kind of thing. Um, and to see somebody from mainstream media, I mean, folks like us, I think you and I would be pointed to as people who were examples of, see, old media gets it now, right?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out though.
So,
Still trying to get the
I think it
monetization
was,
down. That's the thing I'm trying to
right,
master.
right. I keep telling people one day I'm going to turn my Twitter following into tens and tens of dollars.
Whoa.
Right, right. Insert evil laugh. Um, yeah, so I think much of it was that they saw somebody, the people on Twitter, uh, would tell our stories because they saw uh, us as examples of traditional media validating this new emerging media.
So how has NBC, now Comcast, how have they embraced your persona online?
Well, regardless of whether they embrace my persona, I think it's just amazing with the direction of folks like Ryan Osborne and Anthony Quintano, who are head up the social media endeavors at NBC News. These guys really, they're us. They get it. They understand it, and they come at this not from some corporate mandate, but with their own passion and zeal, like just like us. I mean, they're great guys, and regardless of, I think some people in the blogging and technology world think that this should be some sort of freewheeling endeavor that people should just get out there and do social media regardless of any guidelines or things like that. I think these guys, Ryan and Anthony, really understand the human side of this, but also understand that they're sort of helping a huge corporate brand navigate this stuff, and they've brought a lot of people up to speed, and the efforts at my workplace are just fantastic. I think the shows are doing a great job, and I think social media, in some respects, is sort of the new TV guide, the new recommendation engine, and it's important for TV to be part of this. I think TV is becoming more social.
So I remember when I first, I think Grayson Daughters actually was the first person to sort of make the connection for us. And
Spacey Gracie.
it's, yes, sir. And I was watching one of your podcasts back in the day. You sort of took the camera behind the scenes, took it on whatever the pool plane was, and it was definitely like, okay, he's going behind the scenes. He's doing stuff that hasn't been done before. Was there ever any resistance when you were doing all this behind the scenes stuff, when you were doing your kind of own guerrilla style behind the scenes storytelling that you were doing for your blog and for your site?
I think at the outset I had the benefit of, in terms of oversight, this cloak of anonymity. I mean, nobody knew really that this kind of stuff was going on, and I wasn't really on the radar screen.
Right.
I'm a little more careful now.
Gotcha.